Introduction. Zhao Lin traverses into the world of Game of Thrones, activating an unparalleled system, thus embarking on a path to conquer the realm. The Green Prophet. I cannot fathom her past or foresee her future. Melisandre. The flames bow to him. He is indeed the one spoken of in the language of the Light King. Night. Zhao Lin is a demon. Without his intervention, I would have already ruled the world. Daenerys. Zhao Lin, it seems I have fallen for you. 1. The story commences, a clash amongst men, in the shadowed lands of Essos, the original home of dragons. At this moment, a wealthy merchant clutches 3 scaly, enigmatic eggs, glancing about anxiously. Minutes later, at the end of a muddy road, a man clad in black appears. Upon seeing the man, the merchant's face brightens, and he hastens towards him. My lord, I have brought the dragon egg fossils you requested. Furthermore, my eldest son has spoken out of turn and offended you. I implore you to forgive him. With a deep bow, he respectfully presents the eggs to the man in black. The man, however, remains silent. Taking the eggs, he turns to leave. At the edge of the path, he glances back and states coolly, your family is left with, but you in this world, how lonely that must be. Enough. Go join them. As his words echo, the merchant's eyes widen in horror, his consciousness fading until he collapses. After this, the man in black halts, murmuring to himself. It has been 10 years the plans have come to fruition, and the time has come. He gazes absently at the sky. His name is Zhao Lin, a true traveler from another realm. A decade ago, he found himself in this world, and through the people around him, he realized he had entered the realm of Game of Thrones. As a former devotee of the series, he felt utterly overwhelmed upon this revelation. The dangers of this world are, without exaggeration, akin to an epic-level challenge. Just the presence of a White Walker alone is enough to instill despair. Surviving here seems nearly impossible. Fortunately, Zhao Lin is not one to succumb to despair. Over the past decade, he has diligently enhanced his physical strength, determined to become more formidable. On the eve of winter's arrival, he aims to confront all dangers with might. In Westeros, across the narrow sea, Viserys Targaryen, Daenerys' brother, now gazes coldly at a stunning silver-haired woman before him. Sister, what I proposed earlier is not up for debate. This matter is beyond your discretion. After speaking, sensing his harsh demeanor, he softens his tone, patiently persuading her. Sister, you must understand that Khal Drogo commands over 100,000 troops. This is our only chance to reclaim the throne. If we miss this opportunity, reclaiming our homeland and the Iron Throne will be impossible. Brother, I ask you, you wish to return home, do you not? Aye. Gazing at her brother's nearly frenzied expression, Daenerys furrows her brow deeply. Turning away once more, she is at a loss on how to refuse, caught in endless turmoil. Sister, I have already spoken with the chieftain of that tribe. He will come tomorrow. Marry him, and he will grant me 40,000 elite soldiers. Then I shall avenge our father and bring you back without delay. You can continue to live as an unconcerned princess. Please, agree to this for your brother. Hearing her brother's almost pleading tone, Daenerys clenches her fists, taking a deep breath, and then, as if making a monumental decision, she prepares to respond. Just as her brother's hopeful gaze anticipates her agreement, a sound of applause emerges from the shadows. A figure clad in black steps forth. As dusk descends, bathed in crimson hues, the features of the man become visible. He possesses a fair complexion, with strikingly handsome features. His brows convey maturity, a mix of composure and arrogance, yet he does not exude pressure. His deep-set eyes resemble bottomless abysses. Moreover, his robust physique radiates an undeniable aura of dominance. Such a fine sentiment, to bring you back without delay. I must commend you on this emotional appeal. As his words linger, Viserys' expression darkens instantly. He steps forward, positioning himself protectively in front of Daenerys. Who are you? Who are you to interfere with the words of a king of the 7 kingdoms? Upon hearing this, the man in black smirks coldly, internally lamenting that Viserys is indeed as described in the narrative. Arrogant and foolish. Claiming to be a king of the 7 kingdoms is truly laughable. With this thought, the man cannot help but retort, you, a king of the 7 kingdoms? Surely you jest. Should anyone be deemed a king, it would not be you. In my view, your sister stands more deserving of that title than you, a mere wastrel. Who the hell are you calling a wastrel? Viserys' face contorts with rage. I am speaking of you, relying entirely on your barely adult sister, and you dare claim you are not a wastrel. Seeing the atmosphere deteriorate, Daenerys quickly grabs her brother's arm, shaking her head to signal him to remain calm. But he is unmoved, shoving her aside and glaring fiercely at the man in black. Stay out of this. It's a matter between men. He then turns to the man, demanding, "Who exactly are you?" "Zhao Lin. To the longtime fans of Game of Thrones, I ask for your understanding. If you feel the author's choices are unnecessary, please voice your thoughts in the comments, and the author will change the titles to real names. 2. I am your dear sister. How can you treat me this way? Zhao Lin. I've never heard of you. Of course, you have it, you fool." Zhao Lin pushes Viserys aside and approaches Daenerys, gently stroking her hair as he whispers, "Do you remember me?" Faced with Zhao Lin's overwhelming presence, Daenerys instinctively shakes her head. Yet, upon closer inspection of his face, she feels a sense of familiarity. She tentatively inquires, "Are you that Zhao Lin, my brother?" "Indeed. We used to sneak away and sleep together. Truly is you." At the mention of their shared past, Daenerys' face lights up with joy rather than embarrassment. She suddenly recalls a particularly charming boy from her childhood, who would always make her smile during her otherwise gray days. He was a ray of light amidst her darkness. And that boy was Zhao Lin. Observing Daenerys' starry-eyed expression, Zhao Lin tenderly touches her forehead. In truth, they had known each other for a decade already. At that time, Daenerys was a fleeing little girl, and through Zhao Lin's intentional friendship, they quickly became the best of companions. Though their time together was merely a month, the wise Zhao Lin found it effortless to comprehend the little girl. "Yesterday, I heard of your impending marriage, so I made a special trip. Do you harbor feelings for your betrothed?" Zhao Lin knowingly posed the question. Upon hearing these words, Long Ma's eyes dimmed, casting a glance at her brother beside her before lowering her head in silence. "Come now, do not be disheartened. Do you remember what I told you in our childhood?" Zhao Lin gently patted her forehead. Then, she vanished from their sight. As they gazed at the spot where Zhao Lin had disappeared, Long Ma struggled to recall their childhood memories, which began to blur in her mind. The following morning, after grooming and adorning herself, Long Ma stepped out of her room. The usually desolate streets were now teeming with people. Today marked the arrival of the chieftain Cao for a matrimonial visit, and the local governor, Illyrian, dared not exhibit any negligence. He had stationed guards throughout the vicinity and summoned the local residents for the occasion. All these preparations were made to welcome the most valiant chieftain in the land, Cao. Before long, Long Ma became the center of attention, as her brother insisted that she stand beside the governor. As time passed, the appointed hour for the meeting had long since passed, yet Cao's presence remained absent. Anxiously, Long Ma's brother began to pace, fearing that Cao might change his mind. If that were to happen, she would lose her chance at the coveted Iron Throne. Observing his agitation, the governor reminded him, "Cao is not particularly punctual. You must remain composed." Just as his words lingered in the air, the sound of galloping hooves echoed from afar. Moments later, a group of rugged individuals clad in beastly armor arrived. The leader, with long braids and a towering stature, exuded an aura of primal strength. Upon their arrival, the governor immediately approached with a beaming smile. However, Cao disregarded the governor, his eagle-like gaze scrutinizing Long Ma at the rear. Seeing this, her brother hastily guided Long Ma to stand before Cao for a better view. Today, Long Ma appeared stunning. Her hair cascaded down her back like a galaxy, radiating a divine luminescence under the sun. She wore a flowing, pale purple gown, her curvaceous figure subtly revealed beneath the sheer fabric. At that moment, any man in the world would find it impossible to resist Long Ma's allure. Yet, an air of discomfort lingered on her face as she averted her gaze from Cao. Those with keen observation would undoubtedly notice the glimmer of tears in her ashen eyes. As Cao remained silent, the atmosphere gradually fell into a hush. After a prolonged examination, Cao finally flicked the reins and rode off with his tribesmen. Watching Cao's retreating figure, her brother stood in bewilderment. What has transpired? He believed that with his sister's unparalleled beauty, captivating a barbarian would be a trivial matter. Yet, how did it turn out this way? In the midst of his confusion, the governor's voice pierced through. Cao's tribe adheres to such traditions. You need not worry. This marriage is practically secured. As the governor concluded, a smile spread across her brother's face. At that moment, Long Ma, who had remained silent, suddenly spoke. "I do not wish to marry Cao. I despise the way he examines me with the gaze of an object. I am your sister, your dear sister. How would you treat me this way? I truly wish to strike you, you bald-headed fool." Ultimately, Daenerys has transformed into a desperate cry. Upon hearing this, her brother's face displayed evident impatience. As a girl, your only duty is to marry. Does it truly matter whom you marry? Hearing such shameless words from her brother left Daenerys trembling with rage. Clad in a flowing lavender gown, her eyes glistened with unshed tears, her gaze aflame with emotion. Her quivering lips evoked a sense of pity. Good heavens, I cannot fathom how dark-hearted you, as her brother, truly are. At that moment, a sudden voice pierced through the gathering. The crowd turned towards the sound, and at the end of their line of sight stood a man dressed in black. Brother Zhao Lin. Daenerys clenched her delicate fist, hesitating for a moment before rushing to stand before Zhao Lin. Observing her on the verge of tears, a flicker of anger ignited within Zhao Lin. Even having witnessed her brother's despicable nature on television, seeing it firsthand was infuriating. You again, you scoundrel. Governor, summon the guards to seize him. This troublemaker has come to disrupt. Daenerys's brother wore a grim expression. Soon, at the governor's command, the area was swarmed with guards. Just then, a mechanical voice echoed in Zhao Lin's mind. Ding. Task issued. Teach Viserys Targaryen a lesson. Success reward, 12 flying swords. Failure penalty, physical castration. The long-dormant system has finally issued a task once more. However, what significance does teaching Daenerys's brother a lesson hold? Zhao Lin mused that it would be far more satisfying to simply eliminate him. Yet, in an instant, he discerned the rationale. At present, Daenerys still harbored feelings for her brother. To kill him impulsively would only alienate her from him. Of course, had she been an ordinary woman, Zhao Lin would not have cared for her sentiments. But this woman is Daenerys, the one destined to command an army of 1,000 unsullied, possess 3 mighty dragons, and nearly unify the 7 kingdoms. Such power is not to be underestimated. In Zhao Lin's strategy, he aimed to seize all these external forces through Daenerys. Thus, it was crucial that her initial impression of him be favorable. Contemplating this, a glimmer of resolve flickered in Zhao Lin's eyes, soon replaced by a warm smile. After offering simple words of comfort to Daenerys, Zhao Lin stepped forward, his gaze sharp as an eagle, exuding an overwhelming aura that spread like a tidal wave. In an instant, the guards surrounding them felt a chill run down their spines, their faces paling. What are you waiting for, you useless fools? Get moving. With Viserys' command, the guards, albeit hesitantly, charged forward. The lead guard was the first to rush towards Zhao Lin, brandishing his long blade. However, Zhao Lin merely sidestepped with ease, effortlessly evading the attack. With a swift and powerful swing of his fist, he struck the guard squarely in the chest. The immense force shattered the guard's heart in an instant, resulting in a swift and shocking defeat that left the entire assembly in awe. The governor at the back widened his eyes in disbelief, while Daenerys' brother, Viserys, stood with his jaw agape. Could one individual's strength truly be so formidable? It was utterly inconceivable. As Zhao Lin delivered that devastating blow, the remaining guards halted in their tracks, exchanging glances of uncertainty. Not a single soul dared to advance further, plunging the scene into a tense stalemate. At that moment, Viserys, his expression darkening, bellowed, "You all, go forth. What are you afraid of with just one man?" However, contrary to his command, the guards remained unmoved, and some even retreated in fear. There was no denying it. They were genuinely intimidated by Zhao Lin. With the lack of movement on the battlefield, Viserys' countenance soured further, as if he had just consumed something foul. Just as he was about to utter another word, Zhao Lin, the Eye of the Storm, interjected with a mocking grin, pointing at Viserys. "You worthless fool," barking from the back. "If you're so brave and fearless, why not come down here yourself? Why make things difficult for these guards?" Upon uttering these words, all eyes turned toward the visibly embarrassed Viserys. "What is the matter? Are you afraid? How laughable that the ruler of the 7 kingdoms is cowering. Do you think I'm afraid?" Viserys retorted defiantly, charging down from the platform and seizing a long knife from one of the guards. Observing the aggressive demeanor of Viserys, Zhao Lin chuckled. Truly, he was the most inept prince in the Game of Thrones. Merely provoking him had led to this reaction. If it weren't for the fact that such a fool still had some utility, Zhao Lin would have gladly ended him with a single punch. As Viserys assumed a pose that hardly resembled a fighter's stance, Zhao Lin's expression grew serious once more. "Zhao Lin, brother," Daenerys called from behind. Upon turning to her, she gently shook her head. Zhao Lin merely offered a wry smile, assuring her, "Do not worry. With you here, I shall not harm him." Just as Daenerys felt a swell of gratitude, Viserys chose that moment to strike. "Daring to be distracted during our duel, Zhao Lin, you shall descend into hell." Viserys, nearly deranged, raised the long knife above his head and brought it crashing down towards Zhao Lin. Sensing Viserys' subtle movements long before, Zhao Lin merely sidestepped, evading the lethal blow. With a swift counter, he delivered a resounding slap to Viserys' face, the sharp sound echoing in the ears of all present. Following this, Viserys let out a startled cry, instinctively covering his right cheek with both hands, leaving Daenerys utterly astonished. However, despite her brother being beaten, the sister felt not the slightest emotion within her. This phenomenon was so subtle that even she remained unaware of it. Yet, this scene was fully observed by Zhao Lin. It seemed that the reliance of the dragon mother on her brother was gradually diminishing. It would not be long before, even if she were to slay her brother, her heart would harbor no resentment, much like the final moments of Cao, who brutally ended her brother's life before her eyes. It cannot be said that the dragon mother was cold-hearted. After all, it was her brother who instigated this series of events, repeatedly pushing away the sister who depended on him. As this thought settled in, the system's voice failed to resonate. Was one blow insufficient? Or had his strikes been too gentle? After a brief contemplation, Zhao Lin surmised that both reasons could indeed hold true. Alas, in order to fulfill the system's task, Viserys would have to endure a measure of humiliation. With a sigh in his heart, Zhao Lin shook his hand and slowly approached Viserys. "Do not come any closer," Viserys exclaimed, covering his right cheek with one hand, retreating further. He had utterly embarrassed the royal family. Were his father still alive, witnessing his son's disgraceful state would surely infuriate him to death. Is a mere slap truly worthy of such a reaction? Zhao Lin remarked, furrowing his brow in exasperation. With a powerful push off the ground, Zhao Lin propelled himself towards Viserys like a cannonball. In the next moment, a cold smile adorned Zhao Lin's face as he appeared before the terrified Viserys. Without uttering any superfluous words, he raised his hand once more. The sound of another crisp slap echoed. Following that, a flurry of slaps rained down upon Viserys' face. Were there anyone nearby? They would undoubtedly hear Zhao Lin murmuring as he struck. "Why is there no notification yet? Why is there no notification yet?" Within a mere minute, Zhao Lin had delivered hundreds of blows, leaving Viserys resembling a grotesque caricature. Ding. Congratulations, host, for completing the task. System rewards are being distributed. Ding. Congratulations, host, for acquiring 12 flying swords. The reward has been placed in the system warehouse and can be retrieved at any time. Is it over? Upon hearing the ethereal mechanical voice in his ear, Zhao Lin discarded the now swollen Viserys, who was barely clinging to life, onto the ground. He then disregarded everyone else and summoned the system panel. Host, Zhao Lin. Strength, 90. Speed, 90. Neural reaction, 100, maxed out. Skill, basic combat. Warehouse, 12 flying swords. Note, skill levels progress as follows: beginner, proficient, mastery, exemplary, pinnacle, divine. After reviewing his panel, Zhao Lin fell into deep contemplation. Now is not the most opportune moment to contemplate rewards. It seems I must find a quiet hour in the night to explore the 12 flying swords. Zhao Lin, are you all right? At that moment, the urgent voice of Daenerys jolted Zhao Lin back to reality. Of course I'm fine, just my hand aches a bit. You little girl, why are you so concerned for me, a mere outsider? Zhao Lin scratched his head, a smile illuminating his face as he gazed at Daenerys. Not at all. Daenerys' face flushed, and she turned away to examine Viserys' injuries. Dany, in my former weakness, I was unable to stand before you amidst myriad challenges. Now, I believe I possess the strength to shield you from all harm. Will you accept my plea? As Zhao Lin's words concluded, Daenerys, crouching on the ground, visibly trembled. I seek all data, as it pertains to the life and death of this book. I implore all readers to support it. If I receive 100 rewards, I will work through the night to ensure your utmost satisfaction. Furthermore, I wish to reiterate, for some characters' names, the author has opted for titles to accommodate readers less familiar with the lore of Game of Thrones. If any of you find this unnecessary, please voice your thoughts in the review section, and I shall revert to using proper names in the future. Daenerys, in her contradictory nature, received the 12 flying swords and trembled throughout her being. After a long pause, Daenerys finally rose, taking a deep breath before turning to face Zhao Lin. Suddenly, she smiled softly and gently patted his chest. I know you are powerful. I can foresee that you will undoubtedly become the mightiest man across the continent. But now, I have someone to protect me. Zhao Lin, in the future, your sister-in-law will be even better. With that, she summoned 2 guards to carry the semi-conscious Viserys away. As she departed, Daenerys briefly turned back to Zhao Lin. Take care of yourself, she urged, before resolutely leaving, disappearing from Zhao Lin's sight. Feeling the dampness on his chest, Zhao Lin smiled. Was this a case of contradictory feelings? Perhaps it was. Yet, this was not the proud and self-satisfied Daenerys who would destroy cities at the slightest provocation. She even mentioned that someone was already protecting him. Zhao Lin understood the underlying message. She wished to distance herself from him. But he also grasped the deeper implication. She feared becoming a burden to him. After all, those who had overthrown House Targaryen were still hunting Daenerys and her kin. Should she accept Zhao Lin, he would inevitably face relentless pursuers. Of course, that is a matter for the future. For now, it is all that concerns us. On this vast continent, the most valiant and formidable tribal leader, Cao, commands an army of 40,000 barbarians and has set his sights on the Dragon Mother. If Cao were to discover the existence of Zhao Lin, the consequences for him would be dire. However, this notion does not stem from Zhao Lin's perspective. The genuine tears glistening on his chest speak volumes. With a resigned smile, he acknowledges the astuteness of the woman who nearly unified the Seven Kingdoms. This also subtly illustrates Zhao Lin's significance in her heart. It is only natural, for during the somber chapters of the Dragon Mother's childhood, it was Zhao Lin who brought her the sole glimmer of joy. Ah, the young lady cares for me so deeply. I must reciprocate her feelings. In a few days, it is likely that Cao will come to claim the Dragon Mother, signaling the arrival of my first army. With a silent vow, a spark of determination ignites in Zhao Lin's eyes. He casts one last glance in the direction the Dragon Mother departed, then turns to walk in the opposite direction. Unbeknownst to him, at the corner of his vision, the Dragon Mother sits despondently upon the ground, her fists clenched as she pounds her chest in desperation. Tears cascade from her eyes, and her heart aches with profound sorrow. I am sorry, she croaks, voicing those 3 words. As dusk fades into night, the entire continent is enveloped in an inky darkness. In the ancient trees, Zhao Lin, with a thought, connects to the system and retrieves 12 flying swords from his storage. In an instant, a flash of white light emanates from his hand, and a small, palm-sized rosewood box materializes. The luminous moonlight caresses the box, imparting an air of mystery. Zhao Lin takes a deep breath, focusing all his thoughts on the rosewood box. The box is intricately carved, adorned with 12 distinct flying swords. Exercising patience, he rubs his hands together before slowly opening the box. A mesmerizing sight greets him. 12 miniature flying swords rest quietly within. Beneath the swords lies a piece of paper. Upon extracting it, he reads a line inscribed upon it. The flying swords possess spirit. The host must care for them. When a connection is forged with the swords, a single strike can bring down an enemy from 1,000 miles away. Wow, these little trinkets are extraordinary, he exclaims. But how do I wield them? No sooner had he voiced his thoughts than the system chimed in. Ding. The host merely needs to let a drop of blood fall upon the 12 flying swords to establish a connection. Note, the flying swords originate from a higher realm and were initially reliant on internal energy for use. However, considering the differing rules of this world, the system has granted them life. In other words, as long as the host connects with the sword spirits, no cost is required, and the swords can be controlled directly. Interesting indeed. Thus, one could liken the 12 flying swords to 12 devoted companions, akin to Daenerys Targaryen's 3 formidable dragons. How intriguing. This notion evokes a sense of trepidation. With this thought in mind, Zhao Lin was already brimming with eagerness. He bit his fingertip and let his blood drip onto each of the 12 swords. In the next instant, an unusual sensation surged within him. Casting a glance at the distant trees, he focused his thoughts, and the 12 swords shot forth in unison. Boom! A tremendous sound erupted as an ancient tree, as thick as a basket, was pierced through, crashing to the ground. I extend my gratitude for the unwavering support of all. Although there may be regrets in the realm of power struggles, this tale shall not suffer the same fate. The mighty Ko is on his way to fetch Daenerys. How astonishing! Is their power truly this immense? Zhao Lin, his face a portrait of shock, leaped from the ancient tree, gazing at the severed trunk, which lay split in 2. Even as one who has lived 2 lives, he could not suppress his astonishment. Observing the 12 swords, poised vertically in midair with their tips pointed downward, Zhao Lin's heart swelled with joy. Yet, how would he summon them back? As he pondered this, the 12 swords hovering above seemed to comprehend his thoughts. They twisted their blades and hurtled toward him. Incredible! These instruments possess a rebellious spirit. No sooner had he spoken than the sound of slicing air reached his ears. Swish, swish, swish. The swords moved with such swiftness that Zhao Lin had no time to react. In the next moment, the tip of a sword embedded itself in his chest. Yet, rather than a searing pain, he felt nothing at all. What could this mean? Bewildered, Zhao Lin instinctively glanced down at his chest, and to his astonishment, not even his clothing bore a mark. This was perplexing. The ancient tree had been cleaved in 2. Yet he felt no injury. Could it be? With this thought, Zhao Lin hurriedly removed his shirt, revealing an ancient sword imprinted vividly upon his chest. How intriguing. These 12 flying swords have seemingly embedded themselves within his very being. Remarkably, it resembled a tattoo from his past life. Satisfied, Zhao Lin donned his clothing once more and returned to the ancient tree to rest. Time flowed swiftly, like a fleeting shadow, and soon 3 days had passed. After lying upon the ancient tree for this duration, Zhao Lin awoke suddenly with the rising sun. Calculating the time, he mused that Ko should be arriving shortly. It appears the moment to act has come. Murmuring to himself, Zhao Lin descended from the tree and made his way toward the town. Meanwhile, in the town, Governor Illyrio, indulging in a massage from his maid, suddenly received news from Ko. He is coming to fetch Daenerys today? Upon learning this, the governor's expression turned grave. After a moment of silence, he swiftly commanded the guard beside him, "Quickly, have her brother bring Daenerys here. Additionally, summon all the guards in the city to collectively welcome the mighty Ko." Yes, at once. As the voices of the 2 guards faded, silence enveloped the arena. The governor, having executed his tasks, still wore a grave expression. Ultimately, after retreating to his chamber to don formal attire, his demeanor shifted. As the paramount leader of the nearby tribes, Ma Wang Kao warranted utmost respect. Otherwise, a mere frown from him could spell disaster for this modest town. Given his temperament to raze it to the ground without a second thought. In stark contrast, the news brought immense joy to the brother of the Dragon Queen. After such a prolonged period of uncertainty, believing the marriage proposal had faltered, who would have thought Cao would return? Did this not signify renewed prospects for his army? This thought invigorated his spirits, disregarding the mockery directed at his swollen visage. He hurried towards the Dragon Queen's chamber, his voice preceding him. "Sister, you must prepare yourself. Cao is here to fetch you." Upon entering, however, he was taken aback by the sight of the Dragon Queen. "Sister, what has happened? Why are you in tears?" he exclaimed. "Cao will be here shortly. How will you face him in this state?" He rushed out, summoning the attending maidens. "Quickly, make my sister presentable." "Yes, my lord." The maidens replied, approaching the Dragon Queen. The sorrow that had already gripped her heart intensified, giving rise to a sense of despair. "Hurry, don't dawdle," Viserys urged the maidens. At that moment, the usually obedient Dragon Queen abruptly pushed away the maidens and shouted at him. "Brother, you are being unreasonable. You know I have no affection for that barbarian." Viserys, observing his tearful sister, merely furrowed his brow, showing no regard for her feelings. Instead, he seized her by the arms and barked at the maidens. "What are you waiting for? Get her ready. You are no longer my brother. You scoundrel. Wretch. I curse you. May you rot in hell." The Dragon Queen glared at Viserys, each word spat through clenched teeth. "Such ferocity for whom?" Viserys retorted with a dismissive scoff. Half an hour later, the thunderous sound of hooves echoed from outside. "He is here. Cao has arrived," Viserys exclaimed joyfully, envisioning a future where an army beckoned him. Shaking his head, he grasped the Dragon Queen's arm and led her outside. Upon opening the door, they beheld Cao upon his steed, surrounded by a throng of Dothraki warriors, easily numbering over 100. Gazing at the barbaric assembly before her, the Dragon Queen felt not only fear, but a profound sense of despair. She cast a fleeting glance at the sharp scissors concealed in her hand. Her gaze gradually grew resolute. If Cao truly intended to take her away today, she would not hesitate to plunge the scissors into her heart. In other words, she was prepared to confront this unjust fate with her very life. At that moment, Viserion, standing alongside Daenerys, spoke up. "Cao, my sister can accompany you. But when will you repay me the 40,000 iron cavalry you promised?" As his words echoed, a profound silence enveloped the room. The Horse King, Cao, regarded Viserion intently before shifting his gaze back to Daenerys. "You shall return to my tribe with me, and I shall allow you to personally select 40,000 warriors." "Thank you, Horse King," Viserion replied, his tone remarkably humble. He then nudged the seemingly wooden Daenerys beside him and commanded, "What are you waiting for? Go find your husband." At that moment, Daenerys, who had remained silent and vacant-eyed, suddenly smiled. Yet, that smile was unsettling. Just as Viserion was taken aback by this unexpected reaction, Daenerys abruptly raised her arm. Only then did the onlookers realize she was wielding a pair of sharp scissors. In an instant, before anyone could react, she swiftly brought her arm down, plunging the scissors toward her chest without a moment's hesitation. "No, my 40,000 cavalry." A look of terror spread across Viserion's face as he rushed forward to intervene. If Daenerys were to perish now, where would he find those 40,000 cavalry? Without them, who would secure his Iron Throne? No, Daenerys must not die. However, the events unfolded too rapidly for Viserion to halt the impending disaster. Just as the situation reached a critical juncture, A shadow appeared before Daenerys. In a flash, it seized the scissors from her grasp. What are you doing with those scissors? Young lady, what if you hurt yourself? Hearing that familiar voice, Daenerys' eyes widened in surprise. Standing before her was Zhao Lin, clad in black. Zhao Lin. In a heartbeat, Daenerys threw herself into his embrace, overwhelmed by a long-lost sense of safety as tears streamed down her face. Zhao Lin, you shouldn't have come. Cao has brought many people. You must go. I will hold him off. After a moment, Daenerys pushed Zhao Lin away, speaking earnestly. Beep. Side quest initiated. Eliminate Cao Zhaogang. Subdue his tribe. Become the new chieftain. Success reward. 3 drops of true dragon blood. Failure penalty. Physical impotence. Physical impotence again? This system is quite mischievous. Nonetheless, what could this true dragon blood be? Never mind. I shall first complete the quest and claim the reward. As she pondered these thoughts, upon his war steed, Caro furrowed his brow deeply, casting a piercing glance at the governor and Viserys, his eyes brimming with unspoken questions. What does this mean? His wife, whom he had yet to embrace, was now in the arms of another. The governor, an astute man, understood Caro's unvoiced sentiments but found himself at a loss for words. How could he possibly inform Caro that his wife had long been taken, leaving him in a state of betrayal? Such a revelation was utterly implausible, for he feared that before he could utter a single word, his head might part company with his body. Amidst this hesitation, Zhao Lin interjected, So you are Caro? Well, I must ask, why does a man of your stature wear such a lengthy braid? Are you trying to masquerade as a woman? Let me tell you, if you wish to dress as one, at least wear proper attire. Look at you, exposing your shoulder to entice whom? At this, Caro's fury ignited, and he bellowed, Do you seek death? With that, he dismounted his steed. Yet, instead of exhibiting the strength befitting the greatest Dothraki leader, the most formidable man on this path, he faltered upon landing, collapsing to the ground, his eyes wide with terror, his body convulsing. He clutched his throat, gasping for air. The governor, Viserys, and Caro's entire entourage stood in stunned silence. What was happening? 100 or more of these fierce warriors exchanged bewildered glances, questioning why their leader lay incapacitated on the ground. Just as confusion enveloped them, the earth beneath Caro was stained with a pool of crimson blood. Gasp! Caro! The Horse King was dead. Viserys, in despair, lamented, returned to the tribe. How could the most powerful man on this continent perish in such a manner? The undefeated Caro fell from his steed. The chieftain of a clan commanding 100,000 souls had met an inexplicable demise. In that moment, all present stood aghast. Their leader had not succumbed to a fall. A gaping wound marred his neck, a clear passage through flesh. Amidst the crowd, a voice cried out, and the once silent assembly erupted into chaos. Alas, the mightiest and most savage Caro was revealed to be no more than this. At that moment, a light, airy voice captured the attention of everyone present. Zhao Lin, did you slay Caro? In this tumultuous scene, none felt the weight of despair more acutely than Viserys, the brother of the Dragon Queen. Caro's death signified the loss of his military support and effectively dashed his hopes of reclaiming the Iron Throne. Viserys, overwhelmed by anguish, contemplated the unthinkable, finding a wall to hurl himself against. Zhao Lin, I shall kill you. Viserys, having lost all semblance of reason, drew a long blade from the waist of a nearby guard and charged toward Zhao Lin. How amusing. Has this fool's brain been crushed by a door? Zhao Lin let out a faint sigh, deftly sidestepping and delivering a powerful kick to the figure behind him. Viserion fell to the ground with a thud, curling up and clutching his abdomen, howling in agony. Heaven knows how potent Zhao Lin's kick was. After executing this act, Zhao Lin turned his gaze toward Daenerys, only to find her eyes cold as ice, as if Viserion, sprawled on the ground, were not her brother at all. It seemed that Daenerys had completely lost faith in her inept brother. In that case, no one could save him. With a cold smirk, Zhao Lin approached Viserion, who lay there like a lifeless dog. He could have easily used his flying sword to extinguish Viserion's life in an instant. Yet Zhao Lin chose not to grant him such an easy demise. The reason was simple. Having watched the series, he knew all too well how this fool had gradually led the benevolent Daenerys into an abyss of despair. Although he ultimately met his end in the show, now that Zhao Lin had traversed realms, it was imperative that Viserion faced a more fitting demise, for Daenerys and for his own unresolved feelings. Soon, Zhao Lin stood before Viserion. Ding. Side quest initiated. Eliminate Viserion. Success reward, 1 strength point. An unexpected surprise? Well, I shall not be polite. Following this, Zhao Lin's fists rained down upon Viserion's face with relentless ferocity. In a mere half-minute, Daenerys' brother, Viserion, was dead. It is worth noting that throughout this brief interval, Daenerys' expression remained as frigid as ever, her emotions unchanging. Perhaps in her heart, her brother had perished the moment he forced her into an engagement with Khal. This merciless display by Zhao Lin sent shivers down the spines of the 100 or so onlookers. Even the barbaric Dothraki warriors, accustomed to bloodshed, found themselves unnerved. As for the governor of the town, he was utterly petrified at the moment of Viserion-'s demise, half-crouched on the ground, uncertain whether his madness was genuine or feigned. Regardless, whether mad or not, he could not escape the inevitable fate of death when it was all over. Apart from Daenerys and the 100 or so Dothraki warriors led by Khal, the remaining individuals lay slain by the flying swords, none left alive. At that moment, Zhao Lin stood upon the steps, coldly observing the warriors below. You, the Dothraki, who hold strength in the highest esteem. I wonder if having defeated Khal qualifies me to be your leader. A profound silence enveloped the scene. At that moment, a muscular man adorned in leather armor stepped forward, his physique exuding power. Seeing this, Zhao Lin couldn't help but inquire, are you lacking in common sense? What is this? A sense of self-importance? Yet the man spoke not a word, his gaze unwavering as he approached Zhao Lin. For heaven's sake, I have no desire to make an example of you, and yet you insist on stepping forward? Sigh. Very well, very well. Since this individual seeks death, I shall reluctantly assist him just this once. With this thought in mind, Zhao Lin hesitated no longer. He dashed to the stage, delivering a powerful punch that struck the man's face with a resounding thud. Another life extinguished. Is there anyone who dares to dissent? As Zhao Lin's triumphant voice resonated throughout the arena, the attendants brought by Cao hesitated momentarily, but ultimately succumbed to Zhao Lin's formidable power, kneeling to pledge their allegiance. We shall become your warriors, eternally following in your footsteps. Henceforth, the direction you indicate shall be our battlefield. With that, all the attendants of Cao Zhuoging were incorporated into Zhao Lin's ranks. 3 dragon egg fossils revealed a miraculous sight, the largest clan of the Dothraki on the eastern continent. Today should have been an ordinary day, yet the entire tribe was bustling with activity. Upon the throne of tents, Zhao Lin had 3 scaly eggs displayed before him. As he reached out toward one, examining it closely, he heard the voice of the dragon queen beside him. Brother Zhao Lin, what is this? Oh, it's nothing much. Merely 3 dragon egg fossils I acquired from others. Is this truly a dragon egg? Upon hearing this, the dragon queen's interest was piqued. She picked up one of the eggs, and despite the passage of centuries, the scales glimmered with vibrant life. Long ago, the dragon queen's ancestor, Aegon I, unified the 7 kingdoms of Westeros through the might of dragons, establishing himself as the undisputed sovereign of the continent. However, due to mismanagement, these magnificent creatures ultimately faced extinction. Even now, the dragon queen, though she possesses the blood of true dragons flowing through her veins, has never laid eyes upon one. Gazing at the dragon egg in her hands and feeling the warmth of her lineage, how could she not be exhilarated? Brother Zhao Lin, may I have this dragon egg? The dragon queen, lost in joy, blurted out, yet immediately regretted her words. Though their bond was intimate, this was a dragon egg, albeit a fossil. It could still fetch a fortune and was invaluable. My apologies, she said, lowering her head, her spirits dampened. Zhao Lin, observing her despondency, could only smile wryly. Rising from his throne, he slowly approached the dragon queen. In the next moment, he gently pushed her into his embrace. With their noticeable height difference, Zhao Lin looked down, gazing at the enchanting dragon queen nestled in his arms. Do not mention just one. If you desire, I would give you all 3, he declared, planting a soft kiss upon her forehead. The dragon queen gasped, instantly pushing Zhao Lin away. Stepping aside, the delicate blush of embarrassment crept across her pale cheeks. A sense of dizziness enveloped her mind, causing even the matter of the 3 dragon eggs to slip from her thoughts. Instead, her imagination was consumed by the mischievous grin of Zhao Lin. In their youth, Zhao Lin often took advantage of her innocence. She vaguely recalled the times they would sleep entwined in each other's arms, his hands wandering inappropriately. Back then, she was too young to comprehend the implications. Yet now, as she reflected on those memories, her thoughts spiraled into a whirlwind, and her cheeks began to flush. Her fair skin seemed to radiate warmth, as if it could draw blood. Surprisingly, rather than feeling repulsed, she found her heartbeat quickening. If anyone were to observe her, it would be evident that she was smitten. Meanwhile, Zhao Lin remained oblivious to such feelings. The 3 dragon eggs were intended solely for her, as he lacked true dragon blood, and thus could never hatch them. It seemed that only she possessed the ability to do so across the entire continent. he resolved to find an opportunity to subtly hint to her. Chief, everything is prepared outside. It only awaits your emergence to continue your legacy. The voice of a guard broke the moment. Zhao Lin acknowledged with a nod and proceeded outside. After a decade of living in this world of power struggles, today marked the arrival of his very first army. Though they were merely a horde of untamed barbarians, their sheer number was impressive, over 100,000. This thought ignited a rare sense of anticipation within him. As he lifted the curtain, he beheld an endless sea of humanity. A quick glance at the crowd revealed their sentiments. Having slain the former king, Cao, most had submitted to him. Yet, in such a vast gathering, a few defiant souls remained, their eyes filled with arrogance, unwilling to yield. How intriguing, he mused. Deciding to reveal his power, he communicated with the 12 flying swords within his mind. In the next moment, to the astonishment of all present, 12 silvery swords erupted from his being. Hovering majestically above his head, under the blazing sun, the blades shimmered with a dazzling brilliance. This miraculous scene left everyone in utter disbelief. It was a divine spectacle. But that was not the end. Under his deliberate command, the small, sharp swords began to swell, creating a breathtaking visual spectacle. In the face of such an extraordinary phenomenon, all the tribespeople fell to their knees in reverence. Ding! You have slain Cao Zhuogang, subjugated his tribe, become the new tribal leader. Mission accomplished. Rewards being distributed. 10 drops of true dragon blood to raise 3 colossal dragons as pets. Ding! Congratulations, host, on acquiring 3 drops of true dragon blood. Ding! Host has completed the mission of slaying Viserys. Ding! Congratulations, host, on gaining 1 point of power. It was not a system reminder, but rather a fleeting thought that made Zhao Lin realize he had neglected to eliminate Viserys, which came with a reward. Listening to the notification echoing in his ears, he nodded slightly. System, display my personal panel. Host, Zhao Lin. Strength, 91, adult level 60. Speed, 90. Nerve reaction, 100, full capacity. Skill, basic combat. Inventory, 12 flying swords, 3 drops of true dragon blood. Skill levels are as follows: beginner, proficient, mastery, accomplished, peak, divine. His strength had increased slightly. He now felt capable of delivering a fatal blow with a single punch. Truly terrifying. However, what exactly were these 3 drops of true dragon blood? System, please elucidate. Zhao Lin murmured, his heart sighing inwardly. Function of true dragon blood. It can enhance the host's bodily strength, endowing the host with the bloodline of a true dragon. Goodness. Upon reading the explanation, even the usually composed Zhao Lin couldn't help but exclaim in astonishment. As a fervent admirer of Game of Thrones, he was acutely aware of the immense power that came with the true dragon bloodline. Beyond merely augmenting physical strength, its most formidable aspect lay in the innate affinity with dragons, allowing one to tame and command them. The might of a dragon is beyond words. A single dragon can effortlessly decimate an entire city. How could Daenerys, a seemingly fragile woman, approach the Iron Throne? Was it not due to her dragons? Moreover, possessing the true dragon bloodline would mean that he alone could resurrect those 3 dragon egg fossils without any assistance from Daenerys. In essence, the current Daenerys would be of little help to Zhao Lin. With this realization, a glimmer of brilliance flickered in Zhao Lin's eyes. System, fuse the true dragon blood into me. Ding! 3 drops of true dragon blood used successfully. Note, over time, the host's bloodline will gradually transform. What? Gradually transform? System, please don't tell me that even after fusing the 3 drops of true dragon blood, I want to immediately possess the true dragon bloodline. Host is quite astute. Damn it. Zhao Lin felt a wave of frustration. As the words faded, he distinctly sensed 3 drops of blood, akin to little suns, radiating warmth as they roamed freely within his body. During their journey, they began assimilating the surrounding blood. Zhao Lin understood that these 3 drops were indeed true dragon blood. However, the speed of assimilation was exasperatingly slow. At this rate, how long would it take for him to become a true dragon bloodline? Sigh. It seemed that the 3 dragons would still rely on Daenerys for resurrection. Perhaps this was the cosmic order of fate. Having come to this conclusion, Zhao Lin shook his head in resignation. After briefly outlining some grand plans to the tribesfolk, he turned and returned to his tent. Within the confines of the tent, Daenerys curiously surveyed the 3 dragon eggs. Upon lifting her gaze, she encountered the gentle smile of Zhao Lin, which caused her cheeks to flush a deep crimson. How curious. In our childhood, when we shared a straw bed, I never witnessed you displaying such shyness. At this remark, Daenerys's complexion deepened in hue. However, the observant might notice a subtle smile forming at the corners of her mouth. Enough of jesting. Let us discuss a serious matter. What serious matter might that be? You're not suggesting some risky proposal, are you? Upon seeing Zhao Lin's mischievous expression, Daenerys instinctively recoiled. You little imp. Do you truly think I am that sort of person? Very well, I shall not keep you in suspense. I ask you, would you care to raise 3 magnificent dragons as pets? As he spoke, he gestured towards the 3 fossilized dragon eggs on the table. Ha! Brother Zhao Lin, that jest falls flat. Daenerys' immediate reaction was disbelief, thinking Zhao Lin was merely teasing her. After all, in this era, dragons had long been extinct, with such creatures vanished. How could one possibly raise them? Moreover, from Zhao Lin's expression, it seemed he intended to hatch those 3 stones. Yet, upon observing Zhao Lin's earnest demeanor, Daenerys stifled her laughter. Through their days of companionship, she had come to understand that this man did not jest lightly, especially regarding dragons. Could it be that brother Zhao Lin was not jesting at all? Realizing this, Daenerys grasped Zhao Lin's hand with fervor, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Brother, do you truly possess a method to hatch them? The means have always resided within you, my dear. Me? How could that be possible? Daenerys shook her head in disbelief. Pointing at the eggs, let us be realistic. They are merely stones. At this moment, Zhao Lin firmly grasped Daenerys' shoulders and spoke earnestly. Dany, you are the last remaining bearer of the Targaryen bloodline in this world. Furthermore, you are the only one capable of hatching them. Gazing into Zhao Lin's serious expression, which bore no trace of jest, Daenerys began to reconsider her doubts. What must I do? Quite simple. The essence of dragons is forged from blood and flame. Dany, do you know the ancestral tongue of the Targaryens? Blood and fire are of the same origin. Upon hearing this, Daenerys blurted out a realization. As she saw Zhao Lin's gentle smile, she paused in astonishment. Are you implying, indeed, as long as your blood and fire are poured forth, you can revive the dragons from within these 3 fossils? What? At this revelation, Daenerys felt her mind go blank. It took her a considerable moment to regain her composure, finally managing a rueful smile. But how can blood and fire coexist, unless I were to leap into a pyre? Yet, even if a colossal dragon were to be hatched, I would be consumed by flames. As the words of Daenerys, the mother of dragons, echoed, Zhao Lin inexplicably procured a basin filled with glowing embers, red-hot from the fire. Without waiting for a response, he cast it upon her. Zhao Lin, what are you doing? Daenerys frantically swatted at the burning coals clinging to her. Once she had extinguished them all, she turned to Zhao Lin with a perplexed expression. Dany, have you not noticed that you are unscathed? At his words, the Dragon Queen immediately examined herself. The delicate lavender chiffon gown she wore was in tatters, singed by the coals, revealing her fair, supple skin beneath. Indeed, what is happening? Those of Targaryen blood are not afraid of fire. Zhao Lin chuckled, providing her with clarity. Dany, whether the dragon can be resurrected hinges entirely on you. I shall step outside to prepare. I will return shortly to fetch you. With that, Zhao Lin exited the room. You come here. Find an open space and gather ample wood. Off you go. Yes, my lord, the guard replied respectfully. Though unaware of the new leader's intentions, he executed his tasks with remarkable efficiency. Before long, he returned to inform Zhao Lin that the clearing and wood were ready. The location was atop a nearby mountain, expansive and naturally recessed, ensuring excellent privacy. Zhao Lin surveyed the area, thoroughly pleased. Well done. However, you must station guards around this perimeter. No one is to enter. Not even a bird should be permitted to fly in. Should that happen, all of you shall perish. Oh, and everyone must keep their distance and not even glance in this direction. Those who dare defy this command shall meet a swift demise. Yes, my lord. Even if my wife were to arrive today, I would personally deal with her. Satisfied with the response, Zhao Lin withdrew his gaze. Now, proceed with your preparations. Granted permission, the guards swiftly retreated, fearing that lingering too long might invoke Zhao Lin's formidable aura. In Game of Thrones, this is how dragons are hatched. Whether a man-made endeavor can succeed remains uncertain. Ultimately, it is up to fate. Gazing at the crimson twilight hanging in the distance, Zhao Lin murmured softly to himself. The extensive arrangements were made to ensure that no one witnessed the emergence of the Dragon Queen from the flames. Night gradually enveloped the land, casting a vast, dark net over the plains. All preparations were complete. Zhao Lin took Daenerys by the hand and led her to the site destined for the birth of the dragon. Dany, are you afraid? It would be impossible to say I'm not. However, for the sake of the dragon, I am willing to take the risk. Excellent. Zhao Lin grasped a torch and hurled it onto the dry wooden structure. Instantly, a roaring blaze erupted. The flames swiftly engulfed the highest wooden framework at the center. transforming the scene into an inferno. The scorching firelight tore through the endless night, as if yearning to shatter the confines of darkness and soar into the heavens. With the blaze intensifying, Daenerys found herself submerged in a sea of flames. At that moment, standing nearby with an expression devoid of emotion, Zhao Lin whispered softly, hoping that all their efforts had not been in vain. Emerging from the fire, Daenerys, who had remained silent for 2 centuries, witnessed the dawn breaking gradually, with the pale blue sky adorned by a few lingering stars, while the earth appeared shrouded in a silvery veil. The previous night's fierce blaze had burned throughout, only settling into tranquility as dawn approached. Amidst the ashes of the fire, Daenerys cradled 3 dragon eggs. Under the purifying flames, the once solid eggs began to take on a translucent quality, revealing their contents beneath the scales. Yet, despite this transformation, the dragons within showed no signs of awakening. Just as Daenerys felt a twinge of confusion, the ancient words of House Targaryen echoed in her mind. Blood of the dragon. The great dragons were forged from blood and fire. Now, with the flames ignited, only one element remained: blood. Her own blood. Realizing this, Daenerys understood that the eggs indeed required the nurturing of blood, specifically that of the dragon lineage, to fulfill the conditions. This scarcity of dragons was now apparent, as pure dragons had become extinct, leaving her as the sole survivor capable of fulfilling this requirement. As the blood of the true dragon princess, she gazed at the nearly awakened eggs with renewed determination. Ultimately, she bit her finger, allowing her blood to drip onto the eggs. The fresh blood was instantly absorbed upon contact, coalescing towards the hearts of the dragons within. In the next moment, the scales of the eggs began to stir, appearing almost alive in the flickering flames. At the center of this spectacle, Daenerys beamed with joy. It was happening. The great dragons would rise again. The dream of reclaiming the 7 kingdoms no longer seemed distant. Finally, as the last flicker of flame extinguished, a crack appeared in the egg. From within, the tender roar of a hatchling echoed. Though soft, the sound resonated with hope. The instant the roar pierced the air, Zhao Lin sensed the change and turned his gaze towards Daenerys amidst the ashes. There, perched upon her shoulder, was a dark red hatchling with wings, while the other 2 were cradled in her arms, noticeably smaller than the one on her shoulder. As a devoted fan of Game of Thrones, Zhao Lin immediately recognized the identity of the dragons. However, at this moment, his mind was not preoccupied with the intricate details of the dragon's form. The reason was simple. Although he had seen the Dragon Queen before, witnessing her in person was an entirely different experience. Her skin, as delicate as mutton fat, was flawless in its perfection. After being scorched by fire throughout the night, a soft blush lingered upon the Dragon Queen's fair complexion, reminiscent of a newborn babe. One must ponder, in the face of such a spectacle, how could any man remain unaffected? Gulp. In a state of awe, Zhao Lin involuntarily swallowed. Observing her brother's astonishment, the Dragon Queen appeared bewildered. It was not until a breeze swept by, causing her to feel a drop in body temperature, that she realized something was amiss. Glancing down, a faint blush immediately surfaced on her cheeks, making her appear as though she had indulged in wine, her head spinning slightly. "Could you fetch me a jacket?" she requested in a voice as soft as a whisper. "Ah, certainly." Zhao Lin quickly snapped back to reality, hastily retrieving the garment he had prepared for her the previous day. Thus, amidst a flurry of shyness, the Dragon Queen swiftly donned her ethereal lavender gown. Bathed in the dawn's light and accompanied by 3 young dragons, she now appeared even more regal. Were it not for the blush adorning her face, she would have been utterly perfect. Emerging from the ashes, the Dragon Queen remained exceedingly bashful. "What was I shy about earlier? It's not our first meeting. Have you forgotten our childhood?" Zhao Lin's rhetorical question only deepened her embarrassment. The thought of the Dragon Queen, who resembled a sovereign in the story, displaying such girlish shyness before him, was exhilarating. "To be honest, you possess a unique charm now." "Humph, how annoying." "Ha ha. Come, let me see the newly hatched young dragon." At his words, the Dragon Queen pouted, scooping up the largest of the 3 young dragons from her shoulder and presenting it to the rather irritating Zhao Lin. "Here, be careful. The dragons only bond with members of House Targaryen." No sooner had she spoken than Zhao Lin caught the largest of the 3 hatchlings with one hand. This scene astonished the Dragon Queen. Despite being a hatchling, its strength was still formidable. As an ordinary person, Zhao Lin was completely unguarded. Was he not inviting injury? Yet, the next moment, a curious occurrence unfolded. The young dragon exhibited no hostility towards Zhao Lin. Instead, it seemed to display a hint of affection. Indeed, the hatchling had formed a bond with Zhao Lin. How could this be possible? After all, he was not a descendant of the Targaryens. In other words, He possessed no true dragon blood. The dragon harbored an unequivocal animosity towards him. At this moment, Daenerys stood in stunned silence, questioning her very existence. It seemed that the three young dragons favored Zhao Lin over her. Unbeknownst to her, Zhao Lin possessed 3 drops of pure dragon blood within him, arguably purer than her own lineage. This was merely the beginning. Once his bloodline was completely assimilated by the dragon essence, Zhao Lin would transform into a human-dragon hybrid. Zhao Lin, you are not a Targaryen descendant. How could you be so intimately connected with the dragons? Perhaps it is because these little creatures caught sight of me second. He laughed. Having lived 2 lives, he discerned the doubts swirling in Daenerys' mind. However, the implications of his dragon blood were too profound to clarify. So he fabricated a casual excuse to deflect her inquiry. Daenerys pondered briefly and found some merit in Zhao Lin's explanation, thus refraining from further questioning. Instead, she joyfully stood beside him, playfully engaging with the 3 young dragons. Initially, she had worried that the dragons might perceive her brother Zhao Lin as a threat, leaving her caught in a dilemma. Yet now, it seemed that all concerns had been resolved. Was this not the most favorable outcome? With this thought, a wave of happiness surged within her, and she gazed softly at the towering figure of Zhao Lin. In that moment, she resembled a devoted wife, content in her role. Zhao Lin supported the weakened Daenerys as they gradually made their way to the heart of the tribe. The guards nearby, despite having endured a sleepless night, remained alert and vigorous. Upon seeing Zhao Lin emerge from the ritual, they promptly approached him with utmost respect. Leader, a bold lad was caught dozing off yesterday. I dealt with him swiftly, one guard reported. Very well. You are quite astute. From now on, work alongside me, Zhao Lin replied with a casual tone. After a brief pause, he added, additionally, find a few maidens to assist her with bathing and dressing. Prepare the finest meat and bring it to my chamber. It must be fresh, raw meat. Yes, I will attend to it immediately, the guard affirmed, keeping his gaze fixed on the ground, his demeanor exceedingly respectful. Zhao Lin felt a sense of satisfaction at this display and memorized the guard's features before escorting Daenerys back to the village. In the room, Daenerys was already bathing with the assistance of 3 lovely maidens, leaving only Zhao Lin and the 3 newly hatched dragons. He marveled at the tiny creatures flitting about the room. Indeed, they are the mightiest beings on the continent. Just an hour old, and they can already fly, he whispered. He extended his palm, and the largest of the young dragons immediately landed upon it, affectionately rubbing its head against him. Moments later, the sound of the guards echoed from outside the door. The leader, having just butchered a cow, beckoned the guard to enter. The same guard slowly stepped in, now carrying a large basin filled with fresh raw meat. However, an unexpected incident occurred. Lacking the true dragon bloodline, the moment he crossed the threshold, he was assailed by 3 young dragons. Their sharp, piercing roars echoed continuously as torrents of dragon fire unleashed upon the guard. Faced with such relentless aggression, how could an ordinary guard withstand it? Just as despair gripped his heart, Zhao Lin summoned the young dragons away. You may go. Yes, the guard, gazing up at the indifferent leader on the platform, felt as though he had plunged into an icy abyss. Though he had once respected Zhao Lin, that respect paled in comparison to the fear he felt now. To govern a clan, particularly one with 100,000 members, Zhao Lin understood that instilling fear in his subordinates was essential. With fear, he could suppress all. Otherwise, even with immense power, he would inevitably encounter a multitude of troubles. Observing the guard's reaction, Zhao Lin nodded in satisfaction. He casually picked up a piece of sliced beef and tossed it into the air, where it was swiftly snatched by one of the young dragons. The 3 dragons bore a striking resemblance. It seemed prudent to bestow upon them names to distinguish them. Perhaps Black 1, Black 2, and Black 3.